Right, welcome to this tutorial. We're going to be looking at loads of stuff. We're going to be looking at how to get the material component, how to swap materials. We're going to be looking at if statements, else statements, and operators. So all I've done for this particular one is I've deactivated the FPS controller, turned back on the main camera, and I have placed a cube in the center of vision down here so that we can visually see when our script's working, and we're going to swap the materials over and get it to change color. So I'm going to create a new C# script called material changer, and this is going to be building on all the other stuff that we've learned before and add in a few extra bits. So very first thing we need to do is declare some variables, and the first one we're going to do is we're going to get a hold of this box. So it's going to be a public game object called box, surprisingly, so that we can attach the box. So I've got my script holder here from before, and there we go. Material changer, dropped it in, and it's going to want the box. So this particular box I know is that one there. So I've now attached that. So that is part one set up. Now part two, we're going to have a look at a slightly different variable. We're going to be using the material variable. Again, they're both going to be public, and it's material with a capital M. And I'm going to go original material is the first one, and I'm going to do another one called swap material. Pretty self-explanatory. Save that and go back to our inspector. We should get two new boxes where it's going to want the original material, so that's material that is currently attached to it, and the material we want to swap with. So there's my original material. So I'm just clicking the target on the right, and I'm going to swap it and make it go green. That'll do. So that's all the things we need set up. So what we're going to do then is we're going to be using this update function again, because we wanted to check every frame whether something has changed. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a fourth type of variable for this, which is just going to be a number, and we're going to make that public as well, and it's going to be an integer. Now an integer is a whole number. You'll see why we're going to use that in a minute. I'm going to call it test value. Okay, and I'm going to save that. Now by default meaning what it's set to automatically, if we have a look over here, any integer by default is set to 0. We can type in here and we can change it to any whole number that we want, which is going to be very useful for testing our statements. So, if else statements. So, inside the update function, we're going to write an if statement. So, if you remember from before, it is if, then we open and close the brackets, and we put a statement in there which has to be true, and if it is true, then it will run whatever is in between these two curly brackets. Now, what we want it to do is we are going to have a look at the get component bit. So what I'm going to do is fill this bit in first. So if this particular statement is true, I want it to take the box's current material and swap it with the swap material. So it's the same as before. We want box and get component, and this time component that we want is the renderer. So if we have a look at the box, which is here, here's the renderer, and in the renderer we want the material. So again, we're going in another level. So it's the renderer that I can't spell. It should be renderer, and we want the material. Okay. So that is getting the material attached to that box, and if this statement in here is true, we want to make that equal to the swap material. So what that'll do is if this statement is true, it'll take this material and make it the same as the swap material that we dragged in. Okay, so all we've got to do is put a statement in. Now, the statement is going to be to do with this value. So we want to know if test value, and we can set it with lots of different operators. I'm going to have a look at a load of them to see what they do. So the first one is if we set it equal to 1. Now, this is the one that is most commonly got wrong, is the single equals. So single equals is telling it is equal to 1. Double equals is asking whether it's equal to 1. So this is now if the test value is 1, do this. So we'll save that and we'll give it a test. So if we go back to where our script is, it's here. So if we press play, it should be orange, but if we make that equal to 1, the material changes. If we make it 2, it's not going to work. So if I press play again, and this time if I make it 2, nothing's going to happen. Only when it is 1 will it change. So that is an if statement. Now they're generally known as if-else statements. So what we do afterwards is we can do else, and we have some more curly brackets. So if this is true, do this particular line, otherwise, so if that isn't true, we want it to do something else. And the thing we're going to get it to do, so inside these curly brackets, we want the renderer to equal the original material. So what that's now done is we've got if the test value is 1, swap the material. If it's not 1, put it back to the original material. So we press play this time, and if I make it 1, it's green. If I make it 2, it'll go back again. If I make it 57, it's still there. But if it's 1, it goes green. So that is an if-else statement. So if this particular bit here, the statement is true, do this. Otherwise, do this. Now what we're going to have a look at is these different operators in here. So double equals means it is equal to 1. So we'll have a look at this one. So that's an exclamation mark equals. That one is the opposite. So if test value does not equal 1, make it the swap material. So if we press play, it's green on any number apart from 1. Okay, so 5, 9, 1. So it's the opposite of is equal to. So if test value is not equal to 1, swap the material. Okay. Next one we're going to have a look at is our Crocodile Faces. So this one is greater than. You know it's greater than. So test value is got the bigger side of the symbol. So if test value is greater than 1, swap the material. So if we go and press play, and we'll check that one out. So we've got 0. If we make it 1, it's still not greater. But if we go to 2 or any number above 2, it will swap it because it's greater than 1. We've got the other one, which is less than 1. Let's save that actually, otherwise it won't work. So if it's less than 1, it'll be green. So at 0 it is, but at 1 or above, it's orange. -1, so any negative numbers, they are less than, and it will happen. The only problem we've got with less than and greater than is it doesn't encompass the number 1. So we can have less than and or equal to. So we've got less than and an equal sign. So that will mean if we press play, it will be green, because 0 is less than 1. 2 is greater than 1, but it also includes 1 now, because it's less than or equal to 1. We can use the greater than or equal to 1 as well. So to prove that's going to work, we'll press play. 1,